Hi, my name is Aaron. I'm a biblical scholar, and in my forthcoming book, I say this. In 1 Chronicles 21:1, the author does one of the most powerful and theologically liberating things a Bible reader can do. They refuse to believe a biblical text accurately describes God. Let me explain. We've got two Bible verses here. Up top, we got 2 Samuel 24:1, the older version of this story, and down bottom, we got 1 Chronicles 21:1, the later version of this story. In the older version of the story, we get this. Again, the anger of the Lord was kindled against Israel, and he incited David against them, saying, "Go, count the people of Israel and Judah." God will then immediately turn around and punish David for this thing he just incited him to do. Apparently, that raises some of the same alarm bells today that it did 2,300 plus years ago, because in the later version of the story, we get this instead. Satan stood up against Israel and incited David to count the people of Israel. Now, God is still going to come and punish David for this thing that Satan incited him to do, but no longer do we have this strange theological predicament of God causing a person to do an evil that he then punishes him for. Now, there are all sorts of things about this change from the earlier version to the later version that are historically interesting. Like, for example, the author of Samuel is writing in a time where there isn't really a developed theology of Satan for him to draw upon, whereas the author of Chronicles is writing at a time where this theology is beginning to develop. And so in many ways, they're making use of a new theological innovation in order to make a change in their story. But for a second, I actually want to focus on something much simpler for devotional readers of the Bible in particular. Have you ever been reading the Bible and you encounter a story where God does or says something so atrocious it makes you uncomfortable to the point where it's actually difficult to continue reading, and it's actually harder to think about the faith you thought you were coming to the text to cultivate? Well, guess what you can do? You can say, "No, that's not God." And once you realize you can do this, you will experience a freedom in your religious imagination that perhaps you did not know you could have. One of the most powerful things you can do as a Bible reader is look an ugly story about God square in the face and say, "No, that's not correct." Now, concerned religious folk are going to come out of the woodwork and they're going to accost you and they're going to say, "That's not something you can do. That's a bad thing to do." They're going to try and shame you. "That's a heretical thing to do." But you can look them square in the face and you can say, with confidence, actually, that's a biblical thing to do. Because look right here, the author of Chronicles does it. My book, 1st and 2nd Chronicles for Normal People, a guide to the boldest but least popular books in the Bible, comes out on October 28th and is available for pre-order wherever books are sold.